Hello guys, today we're going to introduce you to the internationalization of engineering consulting from a strategy tripod perspective. We will explain to you using a research from Elizabeth Kroll and Peter Smith. Despite increasing reasons for and evidence of the internationalization of professional services, internationalization has remained relatively under-researched, especially in comparison with to the equivalent studies undertaken on manufacturing firms. This paper focuses on firms providing engineering consulting services, and also the strategy tripod is introduced as the research theoretical framework. The internationalization process of firms is often characterized as firms moving through stages. The stages have been identified in the internationalization of service firms. For example, Roberts 1999 found that the export of services can begin as domestically located exports, serving foreign clients who entered the domestic market before providing services to a foreign market. There have been four decisions areas, and they are considered relevant when service firms internationalize. First is motivation to internationalize. Second, market selection. Third, choice of foreign market. And fourth, subsequent establishment in the market. The former is sometimes also referred to as client following and arises when domestic clients require services overseas. How a service firm enters a foreign market has received considerable attention, but how engineering firms they don't have further research. For a service firm, internationalization is client following, that is, demands from the internationalizing clients and the desire to maintain the relationship with them. In this research, they focus on a particular type of service firms, which is called engineering consulting firms, or ECFS. ECFS have characteristics that makes them distinct from legal and accounting firms. First, the demand for their services is usually ad hoc and project-based. That demand might be driven by the growth of the industries or sectors ECFS serve. Unlike accounting or legal firms, ECFS usually allocate professionals to international projects in the foreign market. However, they tend to start the internationalization by following their domestic clients and providing services to clients who enter the domestic market. Non-contextual examination that includes relevant forces influencing certain strategies choices has been conducted yet. Therefore, we look at the internationalization of ECFS through the lens provided by the strategy tripod. The strategy tripod. For those who doesn't know what it is, here in the description we will leave you the link for our video, the strategy tripod. For those who already know what is the strategy tripod, we will explain how that and the ECFS can combine. The industry-based view. For non-ECFS, uncertainty and high levels of competition in the domestic industry can be a motivator for firms to consider international markets. For ECFS, intense competition is not a major problem. Rather, they tend to collaborate with competitors in order to complement each other's technical skills and increase their chances of winning the job. What is more important is the cyclical nature of project availability and the ad hoc demand of engineering services lead to uncertainty with regard to future workload. In order to break free of the domestic cycle, ECFS might seek work overseas even by those firms that are first rather hesitant in pursuing international work.
The resource-based view. Resources leading to sustainable competitive advantage are usually firm-specific and difficult to imitate. Applying to ECFs, find the combination of technical knowledge and experiential knowledge leads to a firm-specific competitive advantage that is difficult to imitate. The track record, as well as the firm reputation, is regarded as another key resources of ECFs. The institution-based view are primarily concerned with how institutions come into existence and how they shape society, organizations, and individuals, but also how these in turn affect institutions. The phenomenon of client following may be explained on the basis of mimetic institutional pressures. Organizations imitate other organizations upon whom they are dependent. Clients or internationals are an example of this since they award of projects of the ECFs. They believe that the study tripod can serve as a sufficient useful starting point for considering the internationalization of ECFs. These three factors impinge on internationalization in the four central decision areas of 1. The motivation to internationalize. 2. The selection of the foreign markets. 3. What mode of entry. And 4. The subsequent activities in the markets entered. This is little evidence to suggest that the four main decision areas are equally affected by the three elements of the study tripod. Case study research can serve as an instrument to develop a deep understanding of a research problem by investigating it carefully and contextually. Internationalization can be seen as an aspect of change in an organization's mode of operations. However, often it is not clear what leads to these changes and how the internationalization occurs in relation to the social context. For this research, they extended an existing corpus of data and analysis on gamma by spending a year carrying out semi-structured interviews in these countries, and by engaging in observation and shadowing of participants in two countries. In total, an additional 36 interviews were carried out with 34 participants who specifically focused on the firm's internationalization, and over 100 hours of new observation and shadowing was undertaken in Hong Kong and China. Participants were interviewed at their homes and offices, as requested, or at the university that served as the author's place of work. The data were analyzed using thematic analysis supported with MVivo, a software package to storage and organize qualitative data and effectively analyze it. Each interview was read and coded, and data were indexed according to the themes outlined in the theoretical framework. The analysis of interpretative inquiries is iterative, and concepts are normally adjusted and revisited during the process. Emergent themes or sub-themes were saved as notes and relevant data. For example,
in the findings, we can see that they use a case study from the firm Gamma. Looking at the data, 5 periodical patterns have been identified in terms of geographical diversification and subsequent market operations. The in-depth examination of the data revealed that during each phase different strategies were employed. In the context of this study, it is useful to present these phases since the internationalization of the case firm cannot be treated as one event. The phases are named after the prevalent mode of operation during that time. This does not imply, however, that other modes of operation were not continued.
The story is rapid and the evolution of the internationalization of an ECF, motivation to internationalize. Important drivers for the decision to internationalize were external conditions such as industry conditions and economic downturns. Whilst domestic industry conditions were the initial trigger to internationalize, it took the individuals and their entrepreneurial spirit, resources, and capabilities to actually execute it. Although not through market analysis were undertaken, foreign markets were sought actively but rather based on opportunities that came up. Market selections. Overall, we found that resources and capabilities dominated the market selections. Specifically, individuals actors along with their enthusiasm and willingness to undertake a project in a foreigner country were crucial. Third, market analysis to decide whether to enter a country or not were typically not undertaken.
Modes of entry. It was found that the allocation of domestic staff to a project site only for the duration of the project was the most common mode of entry. This was reported to be based on the ad hoc demand for engineering services, which can be considered external industry factors. The subsequent market operations. Different forms for establishment were identified, depending on situational conditions and the strategy that was pursued at the time. In some countries, no further projects were undertaken after initial project completion.
In this study, it is shown that it is the individual actor who drives the strategic direction of internationalization in an ECF. Particularly in the early phases, the decisions were not based on market research, but rather on the individual's motivation and entrepreneurial spirit. It is shown that in all phases, the motivation of individuals played an important role in the internationalization process of the firm.